Okay, here's another great example of a GCSE narrative that would get top marks. Let's just run past you again what you're required to do in order to get top marks. First of all, you must write accurately. That means that you've got to be in control of your punctuation, that you're in control of your spelling, and that you're in control of your grammar. Don't flip-flop between past and present tense unless you're doing it deliberately for some sort of effect. Secondly, you need some great vocabulary, some lovely imagery, and we'll see examples of that in this piece of writing here. This plot is really simple. It's just a moment in time and a storm gathering force. But what he does really well is he just keeps pumping up the tension, making it more and more dangerous, wondering, making the reader wonder, are they going to survive this storm? It's written in third person, it's written in chronological order, it's not particularly complicated in terms of the plot itself, but it's just fantastic use of tension. So let's read through it. And then as I read through it, I'll try and pick out the sort of things that you need to do when you're planning your own and you're writing your own. So here we go. Should we be worried about those Robert tentatively inquired of his older brother Matthew? Nice use of the adverb tentatively there. Nah, good use of slang. They're still a long way off. They'll have to get a lot closer before I start worrying about them. Matthew replied with a dismissive wave of his hand. And there you go. You know that there's something terrible going to happen. If only he had listened, which is the title of this particular narrative. They came quicker than anyone could have thought possible. What was only a small speck of grey in the distance a matter of minutes ago was now a swirling ball of ferocity, gaining on the boys who were trying desperately to keep their flimsy wooden yacht afloat. And there's some lovely image there in that complex sentence. So the clouds are described as a swirling ball of ferocity, ferocity giving the impression of anger and power. And the boys are on this, not just a yacht, it's a flimsy wooden yacht. So nice use of adjectives. The clouds gathering rapidly above them were blacker than death itself. So, the students building up the tension, the idea of death and destruction is introduced already. 1 minute it had been a pristine summer morning with sparkling water reflecting golden rays of sun, and the next it had turned into a nightmare. So you've got this nice contrast going on, the description of the water and the sun, the physical description of the weather, and that's contrasted with the psychological description of a nightmare. Then the wind started. So nice use of short sentence. Wind is often thought to be soft and gentle, a refreshing breeze on a hot summer's day. This wind couldn't have been further from that description. The sheer power of it caught the boys off guard. It whipped up waves, white and frothing, and sent them crashing over the top of the yacht. So he's building up the tension, and now we know the yacht's in danger with white frothing waves crashing over the top. With effortless ease, it sheared the main mast over 1/2 foot in diameter, so nice embedded subordinate. This is a student in control of his sentence structure, clean in half. Every few seconds or so we get a subordinate, an adverbial starter in this case, the swirling mass of clouds was violently split in two as the lightning bolt dissected the sky, lighting up briefly the brothers' boat, now half full of water and rapidly sinking. Again, a very complex sentence, beautifully managed, accurately punctuated, very well done. To make matters worse, Matthew spotted the tips of jagged rocks ahead, so he's pumping up the tension here, briefly protruding from the surface before being covered again by the relentless waves. So nice use of adjective there, relentless waves, they're not just any old waves, and the boys were heading straight for it. Da, da, da. At this point, there was nothing they could do. They had tried using a small wooden oars to power themselves through the churning ocean and to safety, but they might as well have tried to stop a steam engine with a feather. So that's a lovely image there. The power of the waves is in comparison to the power of a steam engine, and all they've got in their oars is a feather. Again, also he uses power themselves. He doesn't say to row themselves, but he selected his verbs consciously. He's using vocabulary for effect. The ocean continued to push towards them, certain and push towards certain and instant annihilation. Lovely use of instant there. So it's not just certain death, it's instant as well. They were now only 25 yards from meeting their doom. So it really is bumping up the tension. Still, the wind and waves combined to send the crippled and dying yacht, nice use of personification, at a frightening speed towards the rocks. Robert wondered whether it would be painless. And so, now we've got this third person limited author. We're inside Robert's head. We know what he's thinking. Would he feel every bone in his body being crushed by tons of water? Would he feel his skull being ripped apart by razor-edged boulders? Again, those internal thoughts pumping up the tension because they're quite terrifying. As Robert was contemplating these pleasant possibilities, I assume that's a bit of sarcasm, he thought he heard something. It was probably just the howling wind. But there it was again. What was it? It couldn't be. Is that a helicopter? So in the moment of all this tension and almost certain doom, there's a little ray of hope. Let's see how he handles this ray of hope. Matthew also had noticed the noise of the helicopter and couldn't fathom out how it could possibly stay airborne in such horrific weather conditions. He could see it better now. The unmistakable shape of a rescue helicopter was silhouetted against a charcoal black sky. He keeps using these, in this case, adjectives for deliberate effect. It's not just black sky, it's charcoal black sky. It's not just a rescue helicopter, it's the unmistakable shape of a rescue helicopter. So he keeps adding these details to help the reader imagine what's going on. Matthew briefly, again, nice use of adverb, glanced over his shoulder. 15 yards, short sentence for impact. This is a student in control of his writing. The helicopter was now directly above the two brothers and they're now sinking rapidly boat. A cable dropped from the helicopter. So, he's introducing a little bit of hope here. The fierce wind blew it away from them and their yacht. And now he's saying, nah, you're not getting that hope. He says, moving it away. There is no rescue. A quick glance. Only 5 yards now separated the boys from their complete and utter destruction. So, a good story builds up to some sort of tension, and that's what the student's doing. Is either here's 5 yards away, so close is the idea that you're going to be saved, and yet he's still out of reach. It was Matthew who made the decision without hesitation. He grabbed Robert's hand and jumped. Okay, so we don't know what's going to happen. They're jumping into the swirling sea. The frigid Arctic waves, nice use of the verb, adjective frigid, ripped, again, good verb, the air from their lungs. The boys fought desperately, nice adverb, to keep their heads above the crashing waves that sought to batter the living daylights out of them. The cable was still impossibly far away. They would never make it, so he's keeping the tension going. It's only 5 yards, but 5 yards might as well be a lifetime away. If only something would go our way, Robert thought desperately. For once, something did go the way of the half-drowned boys. Nice use of adjective there, not just drowned boys, they're half-drowned boys. A sharp gust of wind from behind the cable pushed the lifeline, nice, it's not a cable now, it's a lifeline towards them. Matthew grabbed Robert's arm and dragged him over the harness attached to the cable. He somehow managed to attach his younger brother to the harness. He then grabbed the bottom of the harness with his hands and the cable began winding its way upwards towards the waiting helicopter. So we think that they're going to be rescued. Robert, who was barely conscious, felt his brother attaching him to the harness. Then he closed his eyes. A few seconds later, just as the cable was being pulled into the helicopter's interior, Robert regained consciousness. He looked down to check on his brother. He was nowhere to be seen, so he's done a little twist at the end. The brother's not there, what a dastardly ending that is. So let's just reiterate. This student is in control of the writing. They're choosing vocabulary for deliberate effect. The punctuation is almost always accurate. They're in control of their sentence structures. They've got some short, punchy, simple sentences, as well as some very complex, long sentences to give added detail. But what they really do well in this simple, chronological ordered, third-person narrative is they keep pumping up the tension and a nice little twist at the end. You can do it. Just practice. Good luck.